What is going on there, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from different comic book companies. I decided that we should have a massive X-Men comic reading order on the channel. A while back, I started a reading order, but I did not like what I was doing. So my goal is to redo that playlist and hopefully upload maybe 2 videos a week on the X-Men. So we are going to start off with the origin of Cyclops. Well, really, the review of the origin of Cyclops. Back in the years 2008 through 2010, Marvel released a series of one-shots to cover the origin of different X-Men. This, to be honest, is the weakest one of them. Well, maybe not the weakest one, but close to it though. But if you do like today's comic book video, please leave me a like down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. Now, the way this book starts off is with Scott Summers at the age of 22, and we see him talking to Charles Xavier. This section is showing the relationship between the two characters, with Charles Xavier asking Scott Summers if he will be able to lead the X-Men. Can Charles Xavier trust Scott Summers to lead the X-Men in his absence? Now, this is taking place in the early days of the X-Men, right after X-Men number 7 to be exact. Charles Xavier is going to be gone for a short period of time, and so he is showing Scott Summers Cerebro, the tech Charles Xavier used to find mutants, and how he found Scott Summers and the rest of the first X-Men class. But at this point, Scott Summers was actually thinking about quitting the team and looking for a cure for his powers, where Charles Xavier laid out for him that there is no cure. After saying that, you have Charles Xavier tell Scott that he has the ability to lead, and leads back into the question again: can Charles Xavier trust Scott Summers to lead his X-Men when he is gone? Now, we pick up with Scott Summers when he was 10 years old, and this is the moment where we have seen so many times in comic books before this book, where the Summer family were on their way home from a family vacation on their private plane, except the plane is attacked by the Shi'ar Empire. Again, this is not new content, because honestly, it is just giving us more pages of the incident, where of course you have Christopher and Catherine Summers putting Scott and Alex Summers together and giving them the only parachute to survive as they are being thrown out of the plane. Now, there is a moment that I'm pretty sure we did not see until this book right here. It is a conversation between Scott Summers and Alex Summers. We see them camping out in the middle of the forest because they don't have an idea where to go. But also, this is the moment where we see Scott being that big brother, where Alex Summers is scared that Scott might die because Scott has a headache. He has been having these headaches for years now. This is a small sign that his powers are slowly beginning to manifest. Now, the artwork in this book does not really give it away that Scott Summers hit his head as they landed after being thrown out of the airplane, which causes damage to the part of the brain that will let him control his optic beam. But this section ends with Scott Summers and Alex Summers being saved by some military people. This leaves us 7 years later, and Scott Summers is now 17 years old. This is the moment where we see his powers finally manifest, because at this moment his optic beam comes out and he blows a hole in the wall of the orphanage he was staying at. Now, there is some content missing about the history of Scott Summers between the plane crash and this moment. Well, really after this moment as well, but you can only find them in other books. Long story short though, this is the moment he runs into the city trying to hide from people because he cannot control his optic beam. But also he runs into Charles Xavier, who gives Scott Summers the ruby visor to help him control his powers, where of course he becomes the first X-Men to join. Again, we are skipping through time to tell the overarching origin of Cyclops. So we jump another 4 years, and now it is Cyclops when he is 21 years old. But this ties perfectly into X-Men #1, the very first issue of the X-Men where they fight against Magneto at a military base. The reason why we are focusing on this moment right here is because this is the first time Scott Summers hears the term evil mutants and asks Charles Xavier to explain what that means. Except Charles Xavier points out that there is no time to explain that. Like, you're about to fight against a powerful mutant and you want to ask that question now? Now, when the professor is able to teach Scott how to get through the magnetic field that Magneto has put up, once he's able to get through, you have Scott tell the professor to back off. He can take it from here. Of course, this leads into Cyclops and Magneto meeting for the first time. This is really more of Magneto and Cyclops arguing about the differences of their views rather than actually fighting, where Magneto kind of enlightens Cyclops on the meaning of the term evil mutants, how he is trying to help the mutant race in a better way rather than what Charles Xavier is doing. This is where you have Cyclops basically admit that he knows that Charles Xavier's goal for a perfect union between humans and mutants is unrealistic. But what Magneto is doing is going to label the mutant race as terrorists and lead into a mass level of chaos. That the mutant race needs to come together to be able to keep the peace between humans and mutants. Now Magneto takes those words to heart, and you can actually see that he slightly thinks that Cyclops is correct. But with the other X-Men showing up, he leaves to come back in later books, and the X-Men go home. This section is over with the idea of Cyclops finally answering Charles Xavier's question back in the present day, the beginning of our video. But it is when Cyclops says yes, he will lead the X-Men, but there could be moments where Charles Xavier might disagree with some of the choices that Cyclops will make. And Charles Xavier is still down to have Cyclops being the leader of the X-Men. Now, of course, that was the ending of the book. But before we end this video, I just want to say that X-Men Origins Cyclops is probably one of the weakest ones in the whole collection when it comes to the X-Men Origins one-shots, because it is more of just hitting the key points of Cyclops' life. And honestly, it does not add any more information into the origin of Cyclops, because before this book right here, we had a ton of books that really did a good job of giving us the origin of Cyclops throughout his time before the X-Men. And so with this book right here, is more kind of like a review. That is it. A small review on the key points that made Scott Summers as Cyclops. That is it. But anyways, this is where we're going to end today's video, so please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below. But this is where we are going to end today's video. Later, y'all.